Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second episode of Angler Spotlight for CCKF. This is a new thing I wanted to do, just to talk to local anglers that may or may not fish with CCKF, but are definitely tied to CCKF in some way. And tonight's episode was going to feature Alex Sterling. Um, Alex was recognized and is recognized as genuinely one of the nicest anglers in the area, if that's the way I should phrase it. Um, Definitely a guy that's willing to share his knowledge with all of us, and has his own and live streams a lot of his fishing. So he's not really hiding anything. It's kind of like when you're watching the Bassmaster or the Bass Pro Tour, right? You see what baits they're fishing. You see, he's not blurring out the background, so you don't know where he's. If you know what lake he's on and you know the lake, you can pick out the background and figure out where he's fishing. So with that, I'm going to bring Alex in here.
Hey,
Hey, Alex, how you doing tonight, man?
pretty good, Mitch. I can't complain. Yourself?
Doing pretty well. Been running a little crazy today, and kind
Yeah,
of kind of started. I mean, at like an hour before this, I sat down at the computer, but I was doing so many other things, like I wasn't actually having StreamYard up and running and
yeah.
making sure that my audio was good. I will say this: when we had Wyatt and Hunter on 2 weeks ago, this microphone setup was new, and I also had a new webcam, and I had tested it all out, and then I moved the webcam and I unplugged it and plugged it back in. And as soon as I did that, the audio automatically switched to the webcam mic and not the good audio mic. So I was struggling with audio in that last one. So I'm glad now I've figured out what it was. Actually worked that out with Robert Randolph and Cam in talking to them. They're like, hey,
Yep.
sounds like it's coming through your webcam and not your mic. And
Yep. As soon as you go to settings and you see, you be like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
man.
Another one of those idiot moments where you just
Nah,
realize never trust yourself.
no, that's just technology in general. I mean, that comes with the territory. Once you start plugging and unplugging things, it's only inevitable.
Yeah. So a lot of, for anyone that doesn't know, Alex has been fishing with CCKF basically since we started it. Um, kind of been a part of CCKF ever since I can remember, if you want to say it that way. But with that, Alex, where were you born and raised?
Born and raised New Jersey, Central Jersey. Yep.
And when did you move to North Carolina, and what drove that move?
I was relocated down here, I want to say 2012, 2013. That was for work. There was a company over by Symphony Lake that hired me in, and I came down here. But aunt and uncle's one aunt and one uncle lived down here, so I always visit pretty much every summer until I was about 13. I came down to North Carolina. I was in the Raleigh area hanging out with my uncles because they started transitioning from New Jersey down here. It's like 5 of my uncles came down here, so every summer I would hang out with all of them. And then probably around like 13, I got middle school, things slowed down. I was more focused on sports and summer sports and things like that. So that all slowed down. And then I think when I got to high school it was late high school, I found out I had an aunt that actually lived down here, and then me and her connected, and then she took me in when I first got relocated down here. So it was pretty dope.
Cool. So when I was I'm messing with my webcam, so I'm getting my words mixed up. So when I was talking to Wyatt and Hunter, one thing I had was just kind of some general questions that I'm going to ask everybody. I've already hit you with 2 of them. But the next one is what's kind of your earliest fishing memory?
Oof. Bed fishing with my dad. That was probably the dopest time ever, because it was like a light clicked on. He gave me his shades because I couldn't see what he was talking about. He was like, just throw a worm right there between those 2 rocks. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, throw the worm between those 2 rocks. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking. I don't see a fish there. And he gives me his glasses, polarized, of course. And sure enough, I thought it was like a 10-pounder sitting between these rocks. Just a big old fish just stuck between two rocks doing like little shakes. So I throw the worm, bounces off her head, and she just instantly eats it. I hook into her and bring her on. She was 5 pounds some change. We had one of those old. Yeah, that's probably one of my earliest, and I was probably at 5 or 6 when that happened.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
nice.
I was very young, very young.
And then, how did you transition into kayak fishing?
Oof, you got to blame Chris Edwards for that one. That so I most everybody knows I stream on Twitch. Me and Chris got put into a online tournament, and we were teammates. And he was fishing out the kayak at Falls while I was bank fishing at a couple of spots. I think we came in second during that tournament, and they matched us because we're both in North Carolina streamers. And sure enough, he was like, "Yo, you gotta come out and try on this kayak." So I was like, "All right, man, I'll come and try it out." We went over to Falls, and it was magical. It was so first time on the kayak. I lost one of my wife's favorite rods. So funny, because I was still a little nervous about my side to side motion. So I thought I put it in the rod holder. Nah, slipped right off the back, went into the water. I'm sitting there like, I don't know what happened. So when I get home, I had to tell her, and then it cost me like 180 because I had to replace like with some new stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty funny. But that was my first introduction to kayak fishing. Other than that, it's been like pedal boat and stuff like that. Just fun fishing, going for like bluegills and stuff like that.
So your story reminds me probably the first time I ever tried to run a GoPro on my kayak. I was in the quarry at McIntosh.
Oh man!
And I reached back. I had the Railblazer arm, and I reached back on my left side, and I was trying to adjust it, and I think I was trying to turn it on. And when I went to pull it, there was like some resistance, and I didn't know what was going on.
Oh yes.
And I was lifting up on that, and I was moving a rod out of the way, and you could hear like that string tension, that ding,
yeah.
ding, ding, and then all of a sudden it just launched.
Yep.
And one of the rods, the one piece of fishing line was wrapped around the handle of another rod, and it just launched like it was a rocket launcher out of that tube. And
you had it bow and arrowed coming out.
And I had I was throwing a heavy. I got out a lipless, a really heavy lipless, and I just drug the bottom for like an hour because I was on the edge where it was only about 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah, you weren't. Yeah, you didn't.
So I was dragging for it and dragging for it and dragging for it, and never found it. And but you know that's a risk we take on the kayaks, right? It's a little easier to drop a rod in the water than.
It's extremely easy, extremely easy to drop a rod in the water.
What was your first kayak? Do you remember what you started in?
It was the Slayer, the 2020. Yeah, I call it the pandemic plastic. I was quick to grab it once I had that taste for it, and I was looking around, and I already had money saved away. I was like, oh yeah, might as well just get one. And sure enough, grabbed the Slayer Max 12.5 right when it dropped.
And that was 2020. That was the year model. Yeah. And did you do a warranty replacement on your hull?
Yeah, it was warranty replaced.
You and I went through the same thing. Similar. I think.
Almost exactly the same because you had to swap over too and work with Get Outdoors. So yeah.
It was. I'm not glad that you had to have yours replaced, but I'm glad I knew someone that had gone before me because it helped me navigate. Going through that replacement. You know, that's one thing I will say about Native. You know, a lot of people they take a lot of knocks from some people for having water in the footwell and you know all that. But that warranty replacement was very easy.
Yeah, and
very easy.
Even before that, I had a drive replacement or repair. I had some gear shear, and it was literally the same time. I think Dave Hart had his shear off. So it was, I mean, all I did is say, hey, this is happening, looked at it, and sure enough, easily, they were like, yep, send it in, do this, take these off, send it in, and within a week, I got it back. So it was actually pretty dope. But yeah, water in the kayak. I mean, I don't know. Like my first is a native, and I'm still a native. I don't know any other lifestyle. If the feet ain't wet, then I'm not fishing. That's my idea. But
I went to Harris this past Saturday and I stayed dry, not a drop of water in
yeah,
there the whole day. But I trailer launched,
hmm
right? So I didn't, a lot of times, you walk down in the water and then you pick your feet up and put them in the boat. That's where a lot of that water comes from
yep,
initially is, that. And then when you catch as many fish as we do, they're always dripping a little more water in the boat. And uh, so it's, you get those scupper plugs in there well, and that's one improvement I will say over the new mold of the
yeah.
Slayer Max is the floor is it's
It's
slightly higher. I don't even know if it's an inch higher. It might be half an inch higher, but it's better.
yes, in water actually like gets out. It doesn't pool. It has a way out. I know Hobie's saying he beached at Murray. Yeah, I think Jordan beached his when he started taking in water. I wouldn't say Navy Bonafide kept us afloat. I actually saved a gentleman who was in the Titan X, and it was upside down.
Oh man.
Yeah,
At Murray, this
yeah, yep.
wow. Yeah, I was going to talk about Murray in a few minutes.
Okay, no, yeah,
We'll
we'll get to
save
that
that
one.
one to talk about. If you could fish, if you pick one lake in the US to fish, what
Gunnersville,
lake would it be? Whether you fish it or
Alabama,
not.
Gunnersville, Alabama, Gunnersville.
Gunnersville?
It's easy. That one's easy. That place changed my life. I was there last year. That was probably one of the best. I had a good practice. I had a good pre-fish. I had a good tournament day. Like it everything worked. Gunnersville, hands down. Until I fished something else.
They based on what I saw the Elite Series today, might have to make a trip to Texas, right?
Texas,
Because
yeah,
they showed out at Lake Fork today. So
showing out. Like every most of the boaters were in different places and they're still pulling
yeah,
out 30s.
yeah,
Like there's no pattern. I mean, there's technically a pattern because they were mostly fishing the shallow points, but I mean, those are everywhere. And just find man, what was it like 8 or 9 30 bags that were
yeah,
put in?
yeah. Zaldane's first two fish were
5 and 8.
yeah, 5 and an 8 or 5 and an 8.
Yeah.
So I really thought he was going to show out today, and it was funny how it just kind of turned on a little bit later, and a bunch of
Yep.
guys started turning them in. So,
Yeah.
one thing I saw posted today on that I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but just Lake Fork came up, and they were talking about. Somebody said, Lake Fork is an example of slot limits work, right? So that can bring us around. Let's talk about Sharon Harris, because we've got a tournament at Sharon Harris in less than 2 weeks at this point, a week from this coming Saturday. And for those that may not have heard yet, doesn't affect kayakers that much, but it appears the slot limit is going away as of August 1st
Right.
for Harris Lake. It's being voted on by the wildlife. So any thoughts there about slot limits and lake management or anything like that?
That you said it right there. It's the slot limit was a let's see if this works idea, and it works, but you already have to have a healthy fishery for it to work. Like the slot limit introduced was post grass, so to think that you will be able to keep that same healthy environment, destroy one part of the ecosystem, and then put a rule on it is, I mean, we're humans. We like to mess with nature a lot. So it's
Yeah.
very human nature of us to try to control that. But yeah, taking off the slot limit, it's definitely going to help. But we all know, even Parks and Wildlife and our marine biologists know what needs to be done to get those fish big and get them back. You need grass. You're going to need vegetation to grow. You're going to need a lot of structure, which they have done. But you definitely need that natural grass in there, and that's probably the biggest component. Because I never fish Harris. For all my years here, when I relocated, I never fished Sharon Harris. Always drove to Jordan. Always drove to Falls, but I never went to Sharon Harris when the grass was there, and then right when I got introduced to kayaks, I went straight to Sharon Harris, and everybody was saying, "Yeah, this isn't the same Sharon Harris." Now, mind you, I didn't know what the grass bite was, but I was still pulling out 5 or 6 pounders, so I didn't understand. But then when I go back and people start posting pictures of Sharon Harris, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you guys were pulling out like 25 pounds every time you're out. That's completely different now."
Yeah, I think people that started fishing it after the grass was already gone kind of have an advantage, right?
Yep.
Because I'm fishing a lot of memory.
Yep.
Like this is how we used to catch fish at Harris, right? When I first started fishing, this is how we caught fish at Harris, and doesn't work anymore. So yeah, somebody's asking if we can put up a map, if I can display a map of Harris and you start pointing out some spots.
Oh man, listen, if you even look at my last Harris tournaments, they were bad. I think I got one fish in the last 20 minutes, and the other one was just all dinks. So my spots are pretty bad. I'm trying to get out tomorrow and run around some spots.
For me, it's either on or it's off, right? I'm either going to catch a limit and good fish, or I'm going to skunk. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just the way it fishes for me.
I think the best way to look at Harris is have have a Wyatt spot, have a good deep spot, have an area that you know you can go to where they should be or reload at normally, and then have a place nearby where you can go shallow and hope to find some early pre-spawners. But I don't think we're going to find any pre-spawners. So you better hone your inner Wyatt.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy Way is accusing you of liking the banks past the bridge.
I like the banks before the bridge. The ones past the bridge, I haven't given them enough love. But yeah, I'll definitely a place that always produces. I mean, I'm not gonna give tournament history. You guys can go back and look. But yeah, it's there.
And something about a purple board.
Listen, I keep 2 purple boards on me at all times. One in the truck and one in the kayak. Listen, any way you see it, a purple board is going to be there.
So, I kind of teased it earlier about, what's a solidus and who is Twitch, right?
Yeah, I like that.
But we all know that, you very successfully have done streaming, right? And I'm sure Edwards probably helped you with that a little bit too, but I'm assuming you were probably streaming prior to fishing from a gaming standpoint. But a lot of us just when we're talking in groups or whatever, somebody will just throw out somebody just in casual conversation, blah blah blah. Well, Solidus, blah blah blah. It's like that name, just you and that name just kind of came.
Yeah.
So where did Solidus come from?
So Solidus is one of the clones in the Metal Gear Solid series. It's a game that came out during like Super Nintendo, and then it became popular with the PlayStation 2 times. But there was Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, and the boss you find it's super political espionage, and it was one of my favorite. It changed me as a person. But he was the president. He was one of the clones from Big Boss, and just a character that didn't get a lot of like forward-facing lore to him. You had to like really figure out the story and follow him. And instantly, I fell in love with that character. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna call my name Solidus. and then over time, it just transitioned as I got older. I wanted to competitive game, so I wanted to switch it up to look a little bit more edgy, and that's where we got and that's how we got that.
And then talk about the streaming a little bit. I know you started with Twitter. No, I'm sorry, Twitter. You started with Twitch.
Yep. Yeah. So no, I actually started with Justin TV before it went to Twitch. So it was super early, 2009. Just wanting to be competitive, back into my competitive nature, competitive gaming. When I was in high school, I competed in Halo. I competed in a lot of games. So wanted to showcase, because I saw that streaming was becoming a thing in 2009. It really wasn't. It was just something that you could do, and people wanted to do like montages and things like on YouTube. So I just wanted to have like a video platform or media source that kind of showcased my gaming prowess. And it did. 2009, Justin TV went over to Twitch, or switched to Twitch, and a lot of games were coming out that kind of fell into my wheelhouse. So Gears of War for Xbox 360 and things of that nature. I started doing that competitively doing tournaments, doing commentating. Oh God, Street Fighter also late 2010. Yeah, Street Fighter 4, things like that. So I was very competitive in my later years in college and things like that. So I always wanted to have that out there and stream. And then eventually we get probably around 2016, 2017, I start saying, I told myself, I was like, I can probably stream me going out to fish because when I'm not gaming, not working, I'm going fishing. So sure enough, started doing that, testing that, playing with that, and then eventually found the fishing community on Twitch that's like open arms, took me in, and then learned from Chris. There's like 70 plus community members at one point streaming, and everybody had their own flavor and new technologies as we were going and growing. So it was like, oh yeah, did you guys know you can do this? No. Oh, here, this is how you can tweak this on your stream for fishing, and it was really dope. So that's how the evolution of the stream started going. And yeah, it's a little, I guess, little ingredients from everybody in the community that really makes my stream. Because really, at the end of the day, all I want to do is show people, get outside, go fish, catch something.
Yeah.
Because yeah, when life got weird for me and I had to do something, fishing was like literally it. I had to get away from, because working remote, you're sitting at the computer all day. Then if I go straight into gaming, I'm sitting at the computer all day, and then I'm still like focusing on issues. And then fishing literally was like, all I gotta do is worry about this lure. How is it touching the bottom? The area, look at the wind. It turns my critical thinking brain into another form of critical thinking where I can not think about everything else. So it was really dope. So that's when the stream really took off. It's just me trying to focus on trying to help everybody fish and try to get away from, because 2020 was rough for a lot of people. So it was definitely a way to get away from it and start working.
I hope some kids are picking up on it too, right? Because it's definitely, that whole Twitch and just really any live stream thing, right? Is and the short, like now you've got the shorts, right? So each platform gives it a different name, but hopefully some kids are watching that and setting down the video game controller, and picking up a fishing rod and getting outside for a little while.
I don't think it's the controllers anymore. Like looking at nephews and things like that, it's really just the phones and tablets.
It's crazy.
Social media is a lock-in for them. But definitely, as long as you can push that, the Googans, as much as we can throw shade on them, they dented that age group very well. And that's similar to like when the Banjo Minnow came out in my youth on the As Seen on TV, and then Bill Dance's show was coming into its later years. That kind of got you up, but then really what hit was Mike Iaconelli, and then hitting ESPN. For like my generation, I was like, yo, get out, go fish. And this stuff is awesome. Look at this dude. But the Googans definitely hit that with that current generation. Well, I can't say current, with the last, mid-decade of kids. And then, we'll see what happens. But it's a weird, it's so weird.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Guggen Squad. And what I would say, if anybody's watching, if you haven't seen it yet, Chris Zaldane and his wife Trait have a podcast. You can watch it on YouTube, right? Is that is a stream? Go watch the one with Rob Turkla, who Rob is what's his name on Lunkers TV?
Yep, Lunkers.
He's
TV.
Lunkers TV, and he's very controversial, and he's
super nice.
When I started watching him on YouTube or whatever, just grated my nerves, right? Because he's very ADD. You very much pick up that he's ADD, and he's very stream of consciousness, and you don't think that he's going anywhere with some of the things he does. But you watch that with Chris and Trait, and they're good friends anyway. He is now using AI to figure out what to name his videos, because there's a lot of data behind which videos get more clicks
in the algorithms.
Based on their name, based on the algorithms, and he knows, right?
Colors,
data. He's
colors,
collected.
pictures, your
Yeah, 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 yeah.
backgrounds. Yep.
And he's got data. So, he does hunting and he does fishing, and he sees the waves. Like for the past 4 years, he's tracked it, and he knows exactly when to start switching away from fishing to go to hunting,
Hunting,
and
or
then
to
when to
go to
come
gun,
back to
or to
fishing.
stop and go to gun reviews,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
or go to media personnels that are buzzing or have an upcoming trend. He's
It blows
very,
my mind that this can even be a career for someone now, like YouTubing and streaming and it's it that wasn't a thing.
and you can see
You know
it even in earlier in that podcast when he talked about what he was doing before that. You can already see that he was mentally already following that idea of risky trend follow. And it
Yeah.
was pretty, yeah, I did like that. That was a really good conversation they had. He actually came into my stream. He's on Twitch.
Nice.
So
Nice.
me and him have talked, I think at least twice via stream. Really, really.
I watch so much of his stuff now, and it's just funny how it turned because I didn't at first. I don't
First,
know. I don't know if I was
yeah.
buying into all the people bashing on Guggen Squad or what, but it's yeah, it's some of that stuff. He took lately. He's taken an ambulance,
Mhm.
converted it to 4-wheel drive, and turned it into like a camper for like to go fishing and
Yep.
camping and stuff. And he spent like $150,000 like converting this thing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So now it's Alex on the Water.
Yes, sir.
So it's a brand. It sounds to me like there's a brand change or what you got.
Full
Okay.
brand change. Saw this too. It's actually pretty hard to convey it to somebody when you're trying to tell them to come and check out your socials. Going with that Lunkers TV thought process, you want to kind of say thought you want to be streamlined with all your media. So I kind of went that route. Oh, Mitch, did I lose you? Oh, there
No,
you
I
go.
dropped off a second so that your background could show a
Oh,
little
right,
bigger
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you've got
So
the Alex
yeah.
on the Water back. Somebody already said I need to get a good backdrop. My I don't know what it is, but anytime I try to put a background on in here, it
I can. Well, we could talk about it after stream. I can help you out.
I've actually got a green screen tucked in behind over here in the corner,
You don't even need
but
it.
it doesn't help that much. I think
No,
it's a lighting thing.
yeah,
And
I got you. We can talk about it after this.
so somebody did ask a question wanting to know what's your favorite bait to fish.
Oof. That's rough. So favorite bait to fish, I would say is a head-on battle between a chatterbait and a crankbait. And then close second would always be a drop shot. Those are my three favorite. But if I had to pick now that I live down in North Carolina, chatterbait because there's grass. If I had to pick if I was up north or traveling anywhere else where I know I can't depend on grass, crankbait.
So my confidence bait was always a spinner bait, right? So and chatterbait. Well, it's funny so let me even back up a little bit farther. You were talking about when you were in college. One, where'd you go to college?
Oof. I started my college career in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii Pacific University. Did about 2 years of marine bio. Talked to the dean of of that program. He was like, if you're not in the top 2%, you're probably going to be at the zoo picking up penguin poop. Meanwhile, I'm in like the top 3 to 5%, and I didn't really take that well. So I was like, hey, I'll just fall back to what I know. Went back to computer science. Did that for my 2 years there. I had some family issues back at home in Jersey, moved back, and then finished up locally up there in Bloomfield with video game programming and video game design. So
Okay.
programming and
Well,
yeah.
you were talking about streaming when you were in college, right?
Yes.
And doing some Twitch stuff and all that when you were in college. When I was in college, there was no internet, right? If it was strictly Department of Defense at that time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
DOD and
we would have we had a 386 processor in the PC we had, right? And we had a 14.4 modem. We really thought we were doing some stuff
Yes,
then.
sir.
And there was no internet. So all you were doing were dialing into bulletin boards.
Boards, that's it.
And then like every fifth one, you'd get a virus.
Yes, sir.
But we did. I went to UNC Charlotte, and we did figure out that we could dial into the university's mainframe. And there was a professor at that time named Julia Lee. I don't know. At my age, I don't know how I remember this, but her login was J Lee. I think she was a Spanish professor.
Okay.
And her password was burrito.
And wait, did y'all?
We were just really thought we were doing something, like we had figured out her username and password, and we could even, we thought we were hackers, right?
Yeah, that's hacking right there.
Anything, but,
dude, that's an invasion of privacy. That's hacking,
right? Yeah, I hope the statute of limitations is well out as long as I've been out of college.
She's gonna watch the podcast. She coming back.
She might be. If Miss Lee, if you're watching, I never took your class, but I'm sorry we logged in as you.
Oh, man.
But no, what made me think to go back to that was my confidence bait was a spinnerbait, because chatterbaits hadn't been around forever, right? They were invented
within the last decade.
Yeah. I think the guy was from South Carolina that invented it, right? It was an older gentleman. He just kept tinkering with it. And so now I still love the spinnerbait, but I treat them almost the same, right? I almost think like a chatterbait's just a different spinnerbait. But I have to throw a chatterbait at grass and not at wood. And you can throw a spinnerbait in wood.
Right? You can throw a spinnerbait everywhere. You can throw a spinnerbait on grass. You can throw it outside. The way I look at it is, if the wind's blowing really good on any cover, spinnerbait's going to beat the chatterbait. If the wind's blowing over a flat that has structure or cover, but you're not aiming for the cover, a chatterbait will probably produce, but a spinnerbait will probably also produce. But it comes down to comfort when it's not towards a cover, because a spinnerbait is. I think we were talking about this over at down South Carolina too. We're getting into that time where retro baits are more more effective than modern baits, because we're hitting that cyclical time where these fish have seen everything modern. It's so cool. I think we're. I don't want to spill the juice on that one, but yeah, there was one we all agreed on. Literally at the camp, we said it. I think Robert said it. He was like, "You guys know what the most like the old bait that's coming back?" And I named it. And everybody's like, "I was about to say it." It was like a 5-man, just like, yeah, we all agreed that it was a really good bait that's coming back that a lot of people should throw, but I'm not going to say it.
So Bass Juice actually says, they're going to, as soon as they figure out how to connect Live Scope to goggles, because it reminds him of your older avatar of the with the night vision.
It's not old; it's still here. I mean, hold on, let me see if I can grab them. Yeah, they're still here. Oh, you can't see it.
Oh, yeah.
They're still there.
So, but the funny thing is, going back to the Bilge podcast with Chris and Tate, they were talking to Seth Fighter earlier this week, and Seth let the cat out of the bag. He said, "I'm not going to say who, but one of the elite guys down there has the Apple."
Yep, he literally showed it off. Yep.
Yeah, augmented glasses hooked up to his thing. The thing with those glasses is it's almost like a heads-up display, and you can see through it.
Yep.
So it does not hinder your ability to see what's really around you, but it overlays your whichever forward facing or whatever sonar you've got, it overlays it there so that you could see it like right in front of you.
We're definitely getting to that augmented reality space. But I mean, it's good for technology in general. New technology in the fishing industry is very, very controversial, especially if it makes finding fish easier.
If Randy Blount it.
Yeah, Uncle Randy B finds out, you're done. But yeah, it's definitely a great leap for a lot of things. And I mean, we can look at it as the face, like, at face value, you have somebody with augmented reality going like that. But now think about if we even take it a step further, you can actually probably be able to give a blind person the ability to go fishing with enough technology advances and things like that, it's going to get scary, but you can start seeing more avenues for handy-capable environments for a lot of people. Really dope scenarios.
People are guessing at that bait, and some of them haven't logged in, and so I don't know who's saying it. Just says Facebook user, and
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
over,
yeah.
over in the chat. So
No,
I don't know
it's
if
not the jitterbug. It's not the jitterbug. It's not the jitterbug. I'll tell you that. But yeah,
I still throw a jitterbug from time to time in the right condition, right? It
yeah.
has to be that's really a pond bait to me, but
No.
I'll throw it off the kayak sometimes in the right conditions.
Yeah.
The water has to be kind of flat and
Like that's what I'm about to say. Just think of whatever cove you go to. If it looks like a pond, jitterbug it. That's
yeah.
exactly what I was about to say. If that water is like calm, flat, or just has like a little bit on it,
We're getting
man,
all
put that.
kinds of guesses. Brent saying a hula popper, somebody else is saying a sluggo. So
Okay,
it's
well, Sluggo we all knew from last year that was coming back. Hula Poppers, I think it's never left. It's just not thrown enough in the
yeah.
limelight. But the Sluggo has always been this, like everybody's sleeper bait, especially like you'll see them have one on, and then when they go into weigh in or do their Bassmaster pictures, it's like just a basic like fluke. People like, that's not what you were throwing. You know that's not what you were throwing.
So before I jump into some of the other stuff, Phil, take a minute and talk about Carolina Basco. So it's funny you're repping the CCKF shirt, but you've got on the Basco hat.
Yeah.
I wore my old school Basco shirt. Because I knew you were going to be on here, and you guys have got a good group, of guys there through Carolina Basco. So.
It was one of those things that that just happened. Chris, as he got me into kayak fishing, I had to go travel to his place. He had to help me work on it, and then through streaming, Chris told Craig about my stream. Craig comes into the stream, meets me there, talks. Then I go to Chris's house. I then meet Craig, and then we start talking, and then it just all started flowing. It was very natural. And Craig was like, "Yo, you want to fish for Carolina?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." But yeah, Carolina Basco, local retailer. For everybody who doesn't know, sells a lot of tackle. I can't even say it's all bass tackle. Sells a lot of tackle on this website. Brick and mortar soon, kind of on hold right now, but definitely I would say check out the website. It has a lot of baits, a lot of local baits. His big thing has been local, mostly in America, bait makers. Like that is his thing right now, and what he's trying to push for his site. And he has most of the baits that everybody's already throwing, so it's definitely super cool. And he ships out. You get your baits within like a day to 2 days, especially if you're in North Carolina. He does not wait. Once he gets the order in, it doesn't matter what he's doing. He's gonna bag it, tag it, and send it. It's gone. So
one thing I'd say
and
is
then picking up with.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you first.
Oh, well, one thing I was going to say, if he does go brick and mortar, and I haven't looked lately at what he's carrying, but if he's not carrying biz baits and he goes brick and mortar, that's a huge thing because a lot of guys are liking the biz plastics, but you can't buy them local, right? You can't get them on Friday if you got a Saturday tournament, like the guys in the Charlotte area can, right? So
yeah, he carries bizbait. He carries everything. And what the coolest thing is when they came out with their Halloween colors, I had to ask him to grab some. And I mean, I think bizbaits got back to him in like 2 or 3 days and already had a shipment ready for him. Like it's pretty dope. Yeah, so just like what Mitch said, if you're local and you need that high garlic scented bizbait worm, he normally has them very well stocked. So, and he'll get them to you. And I don't want to say it, but if it's on a Friday and you need it Saturday, he can get those baits to you if you ask really nice.
Yeah, I bet he could arrange some kind of local meetup.
Yeah, right. If not, he'll hand it off to one of us to find you.
Yeah.
It's nothing like it's a business, but he's an angler first. Angler mentality, business second, I would say. But yeah, and and slowly but surely, as I've been introduced to Carolina basketball on the team, we've slowly but surely introduced more and more people, and got more people on the team. I think this year we brought on Greg Dudley. He's our newest member. Always been around the stream. He's always been helpful with the group. We always normally travel, and Greg's always there. He's always backing us up. Very, very knowledgeable angler, very experienced angler, especially for the area, and it's always a good time. He's the perfect like dad angler for all of us. When we start getting squirrely, he brings us all back to a level thought process. Like, y'all know those fish ain't there. Y'all. He's like, yeah, you're right, Greg. You're right. So.
I've got another question from the peanut gallery. What's a species of fish that you haven't caught but it's still on your bucket list?
I wanted it. There's two. There's two that I really wanted, and I was hoping to get them a couple of years ago. A tarpon. That was one of my big ones when I was down in Florida. I had a school that just wouldn't eat, and it started bothering me. What's my other fish? It was, I'm having a brain fart. Oh, snakehead. Yeah, they both were there. It was a snakehead. I went down to the Miami area for a business trip, and then I had one day where I didn't have to present, so I spent that whole day just running canals in Miami all the way up Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, and there was one above it, and I was running up and down all day. I think I got out at 6 and got back around like 9 or something like that. But I caught a peacock, a couple of Midas cichlids, but yeah, those are my two is a tarpon and snakehead.
This must be somebody that knows you. They said it's probably a largemouth.
A largemouth? No, not a bucket list. That's just a bucket mouth.
So let's talk about CKA last year, man.
Yeah.
So you won the very first Sportsman of the Year award for CC. I'm sorry, not CC, but for CKA.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have been there. They said you gave a speech at the end, and I think that's what everybody talks about. Is whatever it was that you said when you got that award. But before you even have a chance to say anything, well deserved.
Thank you.
Well deserved. So.
Yeah, that was a pretty emotional one because first I had no. Sean Bird told me, it's like, hey, and this was like 2 weeks before. He was like, hey man, make sure you put in a vote for Sportsman of the Year. I'm like, okay, dope. I don't know. All right. I was like, I don't know. I'll look at it. And then I looked. I was like, oh, okay. And sure enough, I mean, I wasn't trying to be arrogant or anything. I just put my name in there because I was like, I wanted to vote, but I was like, I'll just put my name in, and I sent that to Eric. And he was like, oh, you can't do that. I was like, oh, all right, well, and so then I put in again. I was like, okay. So while at the weigh-in, I'm talking to Jeremy and Chris about my horrible performance at Gate City Classic. Like, this was the worst showing I've ever had for this like late tournament because the fall is my favorite season to fish. I don't struggle in the fall, and I struggled. It was bad, and then they were talking about like all the people who were voted. They went down the line of talking about what was said, and I was like, it's a lot of things that from guys that I know, and then we just kept talking, and then they said my name, and I was like, and I looked at Eric, then I looked at Hank. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, it's you. I'm like, oh, and then they started going over what everybody was saying, and it wasn't like my core group of like Carolina basketball guys. I'm like sitting here like, oh, this is gonna hurt. This is So it was Dave Hart recorded it. I have the video. He said he erased it. I still have it. I think I'll release it sometime this year. I cried when I listened to it again. So it's heavy, dude. It came from the heart, and it's felt. I mean, there were a lot of people who messaged me afterwards and said that was a pretty good speech. And I mean, like I said, it came from the heart. I tried not to miss anything, because at the core of what we're doing out there, it's competition amongst anglers. As you know, if you look at, Bassmaster, and there are anglers competing, but at the end of the day, you're really not competing against other people. You're competing against trying to catch greenfish, and the ideals around that process, and then the people that come to do that at the wholesome level. It's you see a lot of good things in people from this weird sport. You see a lot of good things and just humans. Like, it's a very weird scenario of competition, because if I'm playing basketball or I'm playing football, that person in front of me, that person next to me, like the person in front of me I'm going against, the person next to me, that's my brother. And I do anything for my brother, and I'll do anything to take out that person in front of me. In fishing, it's that person in front of me and next to me are pretty much my friends. These are guys on the water doing the same thing. These are people who have the same interests, who love this sport. And yeah, it's cool if I beat them at catching more fish, but we're all trying to catch more fish. We're not. Yeah, it's so dope.
It's almost like you're really competing against the lake and the fish.
You're never.
Right?
Yeah,
it's almost like
directly.
golf. You're competing against yourself in the course.
Of course.
You hope you do better than the other person, but
you have to perform it and do better. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know. Fishing is just one of those great competitive sports to me, that being competitive, I understand that I'm not competing against that person in that other plastic boat directly. I'm not going in to cut him off, flip his boat, and take him out. I'm just trying to do what I do best to show that I can beat that person at catching a greenfish. Like, it's so cool. Like, when you go around and look at it, it's so cool. And as you compete, and even fun fish, you can see that, like, that love for what they're doing or why they're doing it. It comes out. Everybody, like, that energy, it comes out of you. And I'm pretty sure that's why I got my wife. I'm still, there's still a lot of coincidences with that one, because she's actually an angler too. And she whooped me and my dad's butt one day, and it was ridiculous, because he couldn't even believe it. But yeah, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. I wish scientifically there was some kind of reason why but that energy that you get around, like when you're at weigh-in, that energy is different. It's so different. You want to be you want to have the best bag of fish, but at the same time, you just want to be around people who like fishing.
Yeah. I don't think I've done a live stream yet, regardless of what it was about, that I didn't make some mention about the kayak fishing community.
Oh man.
Right. And how it's just more camaraderie than it is competition.
Dude, the meanest dude you'll catch on the water will still give you a bait at the weigh-in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
10 out of 10.
Absolutely. So that kind of leads into to me, Lake Murray this past weekend. And, how was your practice at Murray? Well, but even before that, you lost your motor. You lost your motor even before you headed down there, right? Like the weekend before, was it a Queen City?
Yeah. No, I went out for the I went out for the winter series. Because our first winter series I did local, and I did pretty decent. Our second winter series I went to Mac when it was flooded, and I did horrible. And then I was like, you know what? It's cold. The water's cold. I'm gonna go for some cold water fish. Get me out to some spots. And I knew the Yakin was just ran down with mud at that time. So I was like, well, let me go run a Tillery. Nope, can't go Tillery. That place is garbage right now. So I went over to Norman, and sure enough, I even watched my video many, many times. I went up the ramp, unplugged everything. Oh no, I unplugged everything while I was getting out the water. Rolled up the ramp, trolling motor in one hand, boat in the other. Put the trolling motor on top of the boat, went off to the side, grabbed my truck, put the trolling motor in the back of the truck on the left side behind driver's seat. loaded everything up as normal, and hour and a half later down in Greensboro, I'm getting gas on the phone with the wife, and sure enough, I look back in the back of the truck, and there's only a locking pin.
That's
So
what, I told people, I was like, the only thing I can imagine if he didn't leave it at the boat ramp, he said he knew he didn't leave it at the boat
I
ramp.
knew.
The only thing I could imagine was you would put it in the bed of the truck and it bounced out.
And that's the thing. I keep going through that scenario of it bouncing out. Mitch, I've never had that thing move back there. I never had it. I've drove to Alabama and back with the same kind of setup, and
Wow.
that thing never shifted ever. So, and then to make matters worse, the only thing that was left was the locking pin. It was a very for everybody who's ever seen my trolling motor, I have a paracord into the loop of the locking mechanism that then ties onto the locking pin. So if the trolling motor was going to go, the locking pin should have went with it too. I listen. I went over. I tried to go every scenario. I even called the police department twice and left a message, and I have not gotten anything back. I had the insurance adjuster come over Monday, and I have Robert's XI3, and I showed the adjuster where I normally put it and how I had it set up, and then I said, go ahead and grab the head of it and move it and tell me what happens. In short, because it's my bed is rhino lined, so you can hear it scrape, and then there's a lot of friction. I was like, and he was like, I have no idea how this would have moved. So
with that, one thing I wanted to do is give a shout out to your insurance. I don't think enough people think about insurance for a kayak.
Yeah, this is on my wife, but please, everybody that does this thing we call kayak fishing, because we even said it in the beginning of this conversation, these plastic boats are inevitable to lose something. It's inevitable that something drops off. Kayak insurance that I have, first off, is Progressive. I think I've seen all the other ones have their own version of it, but anything that's on your vessel that falls off your vessel while on the water can be covered. So the wife told me in 2021, this was like early in 20, it's like, see if Progressive has insurance for a kayak. And it did. It was the personal watercraft, PWC insurance. And once you go in there and look at it, you can see you can get everything covered depending on the deductible. I think it was like, if you get the 10,000, I think you're only like your first limit is like a 10,000 limit, and you're going to get like a $200 to $300 deductible. And that only cost me like $16 a month. And it covers my whole boat, everything I have on it. So once I started adding more things to it that year, I know a couple people know. I know Jeremy, because me and Jeremy went out to practice that year for the Native No Limit. I flipped at High Rock. That was my first flip. I flipped right at the launch at High Rock, probably in like 25 feet, and lost $1,800 worth of equipment. Graph, rods, board, and called Progressive once I got off the water. They had somebody to me that Tuesday, so I flipped on a Friday. They got to me on Tuesday, and I had $1,500 returned from my Progressive claim that following Thursday.
Now, do you have to document, let's say, like what rods you have and what reels you have prior to it?
You should. Like by all chances, you should. If you don't, which was the cool thing, they say send me a picture of what it is. Send me like what it costs now, how long you've had it. They'll do a depreciation on it based off of so on and so forth. But they normally look at current market value of that item that you lost. And if you have, it helps if you have evidence that you had it on you.
Right.
And then, so for me, I wasn't streaming when I flipped, but I was able to show them I was streaming that day. I did have that much stuff on me, and here's my boat and this is how much I have on
This
me
is what
now.
I've got left.
Yeah, so it definitely a process of elimination. I don't got those things no more. So
Right.
they were able to help me. And then with the trolling motor, like I said, the adjuster, I put in the claim that Saturday. So that was like 9 hours driving. After I went back, I did another loop, probably like a half an hour loop back and forth for a couple more times. And then probably around, I think it was like 7:30, I called Progressive and told them everything. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll have somebody out there to look at it. And sure enough, within a day, or I'm sorry, the same day that the adjuster came and quoted everything, I got the money for my new trolley motor, which comes here tomorrow.
So that now let's get to Lake Murray. So you've headed down towards Lake Murray without your motor. How did what did you what
I
how did
did
that
get a
come
motor.
through?
I did get a motor.
Right.
Let's go back to that community.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
I threw that I don't have. Well, I threw out that my motor was missing on that Saturday. Saturday night, Robert calls me and said, or messaged me and says, "Hey, if you need a motor, I got you." I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, I got you." I was like, "No way." And sure enough, I think what was it Sunday afternoon, literally Sunday afternoon, I was able to go over there and grab one from him.
Yeah.
Get everything set up and wired on my way down to Murray because I was going to be at Murray on Wednesday. So talking about our community.
Yeah.
I compete against Robert. We fish the same way in the same places and the same times in the waters. He doesn't have to do that. He does not have to. He can have me struggle at his own benefit. I mean, I guess it won't be a benefit. It'll just he'll know I'll have a harder time fishing if he did. And he kindness of his heart let me use his trolling motor.
Yeah.
And
we got some good guys around CCKF, around PKA, all of these. We've got good guys around here.
Hands down, this community, like our what we got here is amazing.
Yep.
New anglers, people willing to learn, understand, like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing out here. Can I go out and like that by itself, opening yourself up vulnerably in a competitive nature to say, hey, there's a couple things I don't know. I need help with this. Can somebody show me how to do this? You normally get at least 12 people saying, yeah, I'm going out here, I'm going out here, I'm going out here. I'll be out this time. If you want to work on something, if you want to go look at something, I'm going to be practicing. You can come with me. You don't do that in any other sport. Nope. I mean, like if I'm doing my wide receiver drills, the DB is definitely learning. Like he's going to try to learn my footwork. He's going to try to learn my habits, my routes, and then no, like fishing is so cool. It's so cool, man. You can be a competitive bank fisherman, a competitive John boat, kayak, bass boat. I mean, it gets weird once you start going up in that hierarchy where a lot of money is invested, and then you have to produce. But I mean, it's the community in the whole. Chasing these greenfish is pretty damn dope.
Yeah, it's so with that, with what Alex just said, I'm going to make a post as soon as we get off this live stream looking for somebody to teach me how to catch fish at Sharon Harris. So hopefully on the 9th, somebody's willing to take me out there and tutor me.
Hey, listen, we did the we did the Raleigh Rumble, man. I was trying to tell you that wiggly tree. That's all you had to do.
Yeah,
that wiggly tree had all the fish at 10 feet plus.
So you get to Lake Murray. You've got Robert's motor.
Yes, sir.
Did you find any fish in practice?
I did. I literally my first cast on Murray. My first cast on Murray, I caught a 3-pounder.
Well, that was your downfall right there. You never want to fish on the first cast.
I learned. I had to take that. I had to take that L the hard way. So the first hour I get there, I set up camp, set up the tent and everything, and it's exactly what I practice. It's a blueback herring lake with largemouth, little bit spots and stripers. So understanding that and looking at how big it is and how much wind is coming that week, I'm like, oh, I'll just fish it like Norman. You go to every point, look for fish, and then cast. look for fish, then cast. And as I'm setting up camp, right in the middle of the lake between two islands, wind is gusting through. Seagulls are going seagull. Like they are out of their mind. At least like 50 of them just coming down. I was like, and I even said it on stream, the wind's blowing directly at me. I'm like, about 20 minutes, they'll be here. And I kid you not, within 25, 30 minutes, Mitch, I'm sitting there scrambling in my truck trying to grab rods, fighting a jerk bait that's hung on to two other rods. Grab out a little 3-inch swim bait with a 3/8 ounce head and wing it, probably like 120 feet, just straight strongman throw it. And as soon as I start ticking those rocks, bonk, I'm like, oh, I got a striper. Thing is hustling down, no jumps, no head shakes. And then I get it close to the bank. I'm like, yeah, it's a striper. And sure enough, it wasn't. It went sideways. I saw green. I was like, oh, it's a largemouth. And brought it up. I was like, oh, this tournament's in my head. This tournament's going to be easy. This is a done deal.
Yeah.
And then I got out on the kayak, did the same thing, just went back out to the point, marked a lot of bass, marked a lot of striper, started catching striper, just having fun catching striper. And yeah, it didn't turn out that way. So practice, I went to go to a place I wanted to check because the wind scenario. Went out there, motor died. We had some electrical issues. I'll get to that one. Motor died, had electrical issues, wind is howling, and I have to pedal. I'm already like 6 miles away from ramp. So we got to pedal, not knowing there's a ramp right above I didn't do my due diligence on my ramp knowledge. There was a ramp half a mile north of me. So I have to go back to my ramp, pedaling over there, and talking to Ryan Galloway on the phone. Like, yeah, if I don't make it, I was like, if you don't hear from me in an hour and a half, I'll keep my phone on. It's water resistant. It's going to be in my vest. If I'm floating, you'll find me. Call the mom, call the sister, call the mom, call the wife. And I gave them all the same thing. I was like, weather's getting kind of bad. If you guys don't hear from me in 2 hours, give me a call back, figure out what I'm doing, where I'm at. So boat's getting washed. I had to pull over to the side, start dumping some water. And then I'm starting to run back out talking to Ryan on the phone. And sure enough, as I round a corner on a point, another angler is literally turtled up, life vest up, and floating backwards, sitting in about 25 feet. So on the phone with Ryan, I'm like, yo, I got to go. Guy flip. I'll give you a call once we're out. And literally launched the boat on some rocks, go around this pier of this house and jump in the water with him and bring him back. He was doing okay. He was just cold at that point. He was still just like shocked and cold, not like dire straits, dying, just slowly floating. Eventually the waves would have crashed him back into the rocks and he would have got his footing. But get him back. We start dumping all of his gear from boat onto land on this owner's this couple's backyard, and they come out and was like, "Are you guys all right?" It's like, just a little wet, and then they're like, "Can we do anything?" I was like, "Yeah, just give us some dry clothes." So she runs back in the house, grabs dry clothes, and me and him are still dumping all his stuff out, and we pretty much he goes back in the water and swims his boat through the docks cross beams, and then we bring it over to the ramp, and we start dumping water, getting everything out. He calls his wife, who has his truck, and gets us both back to the ramp to grab his trailer because he dropped it off there, take the trailer back to the house, and we load up. And I just want to go through the story again. It's kind of coincidental that everything happened this way. And I kind of I keep going over that scenario. When I went out before, that motor was working fine. That motor was fine. It just died somehow, some way. Buddy from Indiana comes out. He does some electrical magic on everything, gets everything working. But before that, everything on that boat was working fine, the motor. So I don't know if I was supposed to be there at that perfect time or what happened, but I was there at that perfect time. And everything kind of worked that way. And then it kind of came back full circle when he told me he has a truck with a trailer that loads 2 kayaks. I was like,
right.
Yeah, and I told him, I was like, there's no way that's already a scenario that you have that, and you came down here with a single kayak, and I just saved you out of the water, and there was too many things that happened that coincidence shouldn't have happened, but it did for that scenario to happen. So I was
Yeah.
very, it's been one of those those reflective moments this past tournament. I know I didn't catch any fish, any scoreable. I actually hooked up on one, but I didn't catch any good scoreable fish that whole tournament. But like that's the only thing that made sense, is that I was just supposed to be there to help
Yeah.
him at that
Yeah.
point in time of his fishing. And what's crazy enough was his wife is pregnant with their first child, and
Oh,
I was like, that would be the worst way to explain how your dad died.
right. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So you made a post, on your Facebook that I think just reflects your character, reflects everything you've just said. Um, it's out there, it's public, anybody can go see it. But I mean, it basically just says exactly what you just said, right? Too many coincidences that put you in certain areas at a certain time to help an angler in need. So,
it's so crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're yeah, we're rooting for each other now, because I know he's going to be going back on the national scene, and he's watching me on the local scene. So it's definitely like new fan, new friend.
Well, I know I told you before you went down there, I was like, hey, go down there and do work and let's have something to talk about, you
We
know,
got something to talk
when we
about.
do. And that this isn't really what I meant, but you did some work and we
Yeah,
definitely had something
yeah,
to talk about.
most definitely. Yeah, and big shout out to everybody at the camp. The what, T12, T13, was it? Darren, Robert, Paul, myself, Ryan, Steven, the random dude who came on the last day with his son on the far left. Man, our campsite was really good. I enjoyed the company. It was an awesome experience. It was a very awesome experience.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't you that flipped, but still, there was some risk there for you. Glad you're okay. Glad you were able to help him.
Dude, it was
Um,
rough. It was rough
good
out
looking out for, looks good on local kayak guys, right?
there.
Uh, it's not the funny thing is it's not the first time. We had uh, at Farrington Point, one of our early tournaments. A kid flipped
Yeah.
off a boat and the father didn't realize it,
Realize it, and we had
and one of our kayakers was there who happened to be a first responder, right? Who was like trained in this stuff.
and to
He
be in that spot while the
right,
father's still
just to
just
be right
going,
there,
and
just
the
to be right there.
doesn't even know. Like, can
Yeah.
you imagine, like, getting to your next spot, which is like 5 minutes away, looking
And
back
then
and
you look and the kid's
your
gone.
son's not there? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's scary.
yeah. But it's also scary to think about that dude was by himself, right? Nobody knew he was in the water. We see drownings, and things at local lakes around here,
Yeah,
and it's just not a way I want to go. I don't think. And we're talking about doing a trip to down to Oak Island,
yeah.
and one of the guys was like, "We're going offshore," and I was like, he was talking about going like 3 miles offshore.
Oh
And I'm like,
no.
I don't think I want to be someplace where I can't see land in a kayak. I
No.
know I've got my life vest and all that. I think I might just stick to the
Yeah,
backwaters, the intercoastal, and
yeah,
chase some reds.
there's no need to risk it. I mean, there's nothing to prove out there. You can catch mostly the same fish unless you're trying to go after migratory fish. But
What did he say? He was,
you hook you gotta have some kind of mothership if you hook into something like a tuna or something like that
right,
to at,
right.
at least keep you in contact, and if you do get too far out, to load you back up to get you to safer waters.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, going after okay, that's a good
Yeah.
microphone
King
fish.
mackerel. That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
King Max won't be too bad, and they will come. They don't have to go. You don't have to go 3 miles out. They'll come
There's
in.
some point out there. There's some
Yeah.
piece of structure or something
Mhm.
out there. It must be like a
Yep.
community hole, and
Yep.
that's what
Yep.
he's
Yep.
targeting. So,
Yep.
um, holy crap! What is this? Holy crap! Exactly example for the award you won with CKA. Glad to be a friend of the Solidists.
Oh god. Yeah. Yeah.
So really, the only last thing I had to ask you about, like, I definitely want to talk about what happened at Murray. The fact that you came away from there with such a good attitude of getting skunked 2 days, which is but then you came away with like, yeah, I didn't catch any fish, but I had this other experience that
Yeah.
is almost, definitely is not going to be something I forget. Um, we had these things to talk about. What's your plans? What have you got planned for this year? Like, kind of what's your goal? What's your game plan for 2024 season? So
No goals this year. That's my goal. It's not to have any goals, to be open. Last year I hit every goal that I had set so fast that I just like I said, you know what, just everything is coming at you. Just be ready and fish. That first tournament we had last year at Jordan, that was my first actual first place. That was my only goal for, like, that was my biggest goal for last year, is to at least win one tournament and come in first place. And it happened so fast.
yeah,
My next goal was to make sure my first couple tournaments I get a limit, hit those instantly. And yeah, it was kind of scary that, like, a lot of things happen very fast. So this year, no goals. Try to, like, my main thing was, if I can fish it, fish it. And try to do at least a better map study.
mm,
Um,
mm,
I know that I have already a fixation of what I want to do when I get to a lake, but I should sit down and look at plan B's and C's, because later in the last year's season, I realized, hey, my plan A didn't work and my plan B was not. I had to be patient for plan B. I should already had a plan C so I can come back to plan B when I have to be patient. But yeah, so this year it's just open-minded. Oh, I did have one goal, going back to what worked for me these last 3 years. That was my big goal. So Ned rig, Texas rig, chatterbait, crankbait, drop shot. Those were going to be like the mainstays. And that was like, don't overthink when I'm about to go fish. Just use what I know I've been catching fish with and stay with my confidence.
I think
But
about that a lot. There's so many techniques out there now, right? And you're limited as how many rods you can have on the boat. Now, if you're smart, you buy rods that can do multiple
multiple.
disciplines, right?
Mhm.
So you can just take a bait off and tie a bait on. But we've got so many choices in our tackle box now. And to look at it the way you just said, right? Let me get back to the Ned rig, the chatterbait, and you name these 5 or 6 core techniques, that you're thinking on. Those have caught fish for a long time. Right? Why is it, we just get caught up in the newest thing and
Yep.
but there's I tend to think if when I first started kayak fishing, I said it made me a better fisherman because it taught me to slow down, because I didn't have the ability to crank up a 150 horsepower motor and run to the other side of the lake.
Yep.
If I'm committed to fish this area for a certain amount of time, I'm not gonna be there 20 minutes and then go load the kayak out and go to another ramp.
Yep.
So you've got to learn to pick an area apart, right? And the way you pick it apart is being patient, right? It's not switching baits every 5 minutes,
No.
and if you, but we just get so caught up and we get so impatient that we switch, and that next cast could have been the one that he was going to bite that shaky head,
Oh
or
man, those
you know,
what ifs, yeah,
yeah,
those what ifs come back. It's like, man, I really shouldn't have switched off of that dang bait.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this too, because you sound like that's a little bit of a change, right? Like,
Mhm.
my goal is to not have any goals. You've been BLAT, right? You've had this relationship with BLAT. Like, I guess you were taking. Did you participated in that school? I assume.
Yeah, yeah. I did his introductory straight up fishing school last year. Me and the wife attended that one down at Hartwell. And yeah, I'll be going back there next month, in the next month, for the second year championship. Yep.
And has any of that, is some of this a result of anything you learned from Brian, or is it just
Hands
self reflection?
hands down,
Okay.
hands down. Uh, Not the goals, but going back to just the basics and understanding what works. Um, I mean, he went down to Florida, just going off of what he did last year when this, like, when this was happening. It was like, you go down to Florida and just go down there with a spinning rod, and you start pulling up 5 to 8 pounders and start and come close to winning the tournament. And then you'll see it like later, like as he went through the season, he just stopped caring about current new stuff and just stayed true to himself. But that kind of wore off on me, but more to the point where I had that self-reflection pretty much just like him. I was like, why did I do good here? What did I do? Why did I not do good here? What was I thinking here? And just, I mean, I have video that, and I think that's one of the best things is that I have video to go back and look at what I'm doing or what I'm doing wrong. And it gives me a really good chance to like understand, like, hey, you're kind of overthinking a lot of this. Like you really, it's a green fish. You know its habits. You fish for them a long time, and you know what they like. So there's no need to go above and beyond to think that these fish are going to do something extremely different, other than if it gets too cold, they just won't eat as good as they normally do. So that was more so the thought process of why I did that. But yeah, it was that self-reflection that he introduced last year more so wore off on me to, kind of go back and look at why I'm not doing as good as I did the previous year than I did last year and things like that. Just the details you have to checks and balances.
Yeah. I think he's an example to me of utilizing social media. Right. So he's got a brand, right? B-Lat is a brand, and he has proven, and I heard over the course of the past week or so in different podcasts, Jacob Fouts. Everybody knows this video from Jacob Fouts coming out like, I thought I was going to join the elites and I was going to get all these sponsors and blah, blah, blah.
Everything is just going to add up. It's going to make sense. I'm here at the pinnacle.
So Jacob Fouts is on the Bassmaster Elite. B-Lat is on MLF Invitationals, right? So he's not even at the top tier, but he's got this brand and this social media, which proves that
and he doesn't win a lot of tournaments.
Right.
I think he only has if you look at his stats, maybe 2 professional wins, maybe 20 top 10s. Like he's not what you would consider like a Jacob Wheeler successful angler. Right. He's not a highlight winner. He's not a Kevin Van Dam. He is not a face. He's not a name you should look out for. He is just a name that is there. And
but got a brand and got a following. I mean, like, I love watching his videos.
And he's a real person. Yeah. Like that's the coolest thing about it. He is not what you see in the video is not different from what you see once you shake his hand. That man is I can attest that he is a very real person. And I think that's probably one of the best qualities because it like I was saying with the energy, it exudes out of his videos that he's out there having fun, catching bass, and loves to help people and doesn't care what anybody thinks.
And he's got his kid on the boat, right? And he's like having to stop and deal with his kid in the middle of the videos. And
you talk about wholesome, that it's
he's the exception. I don't know if you've ever heard "Don't Meet Your Heroes."
Yeah,
right. He's the exception.
Yeah,
I really think he's the exception, right? Like when you meet him, he's going to uphold that image that you have of him, as opposed to I've met a couple at the Bass and Saltwater. I met a couple when I had press passes at the, when MLF was fishing these areas, and I was press passes, and I'm behind the ropes, talking to these guys, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't the same guy that, that I see in those videos. There's a couple, Iconelli, same dude, exact same dude, right? And a lot of people don't, he does put on an image, right? He's a marketing major. Screaming in the boat, right? That's calculated by him, all right? And it's a love it or hate it thing, and he's just counting on the ones that love it.
He got a lot of love it, especially like I was saying from my generation. That
my father-in-law hates him. If I'm on my father-in-law's boat and I hook a fish, I'll jump down and get real low to the gunnel Like, I can't let him jump. I can't let him jump. My father-in-law's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is what Ike does. This is what Ike does."
Yeah, you
He
try to
gets
get
so
on. You
mad.
try to get kicked
He
off
said,
the boat.
if somebody I know sees you doing that,"
Oh
but,
man.
yeah, there's a lot of them that are just as genuine as every time my wife and I go fishing, any bite, "It's a giant. It's a
It's
big
a
one."
big one.
You know? My father-in-law, he keeps saying, "I watch these guys. They go, it's a giant. It's a giant. It's a 2.5 pounder." And I said, "Well, I guess it's relative to the tournament they're fishing." Because
Mhm.
I was watching a rerun uh,
Sabine.
of an MLF tournament today
Okay, yeah.
on YouTube, right? Not a Bass Pro Tour, but the Challenge Cups.
Mhm.
And one of them was like, "Man, please let me catch a fish just so I could say I caught two in a period."
Yeah,
Right. It was the lowest weight. It was the lowest um, total weight to advance to a championship round that they had had to that point.
gotcha.
And I mean, it was just a tough day. And
Yeah.
it was down in South Carolina at Greenwood, South Carolina. I can't
Okay,
remember which lake they were fishing, but I do know that it was the Greenwood area.
was it the
Um,
Russell? No, was it yeah, well, I don't know. I think I know which one you're talking about.
but it was, yeah, they had a tough time. So,
Yep.
well, man, I appreciate you joining.
Oh, man,
I
I thank you
appreciate
for
you
having
as a person. I enjoy being around you. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy fishing with you. You've taught me some things at Harris in the past that have helped me out a time or two. So you may not even remember it, but I do. And just glad to have you in the area. Glad to have you fishing with us. Wish you luck this year. And before we go, we need a bing bong.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Bing bong, fish on. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So, man, thank you very much for joining. Have a good night. Have a good season, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mitch. Thank
All
you for
right.
what you do.
Thank you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
So that's it, guys. Thanks for joining. Very, half the time I forgot that people are even watching this. This is just a conversation between me and Alex where I had a couple things I wanted to talk to him about, and he just made it easy. And good dude. If you see him on the water, speak to him. If you see him at a boat ramp, speak to him. Ask him where he gets his purple measuring boards, whatever. And thanks all of y'all for watching or for listening. And we'll see you on the water soon. I think our next one will be after our the next one of these we do. Hopefully, we'll be talking to the winner of the first event from Harris. So look forward to that. Look forward to seeing you all again.